In the mid-18th century, Bengal was one of the richest regions in the world. Its silk, muslin, spices, and trade routes filled the treasury with unimaginable wealth. European trading companies crowded its ports like vultures circling a golden field, pretending to be merchants while quietly sharpening political knives. Colonialism always arrives wearing a polite smile first. At the center of Bengal stood the young Nawab, Siraj ud-Daulah. He became Nawab in 1756 after the death of his grandfather, Alawadi Khan. Siraj was young, emotional, and sometimes impulsive, but he deeply cared about protecting Bengal from foreign control. He understood something dangerous. The British East India Company was no longer behaving like a trading company. It was behaving like a future ruler. Before his death, Alawadi Khan had already seen how ambitious and divided his court had become. Although Siraj was not perfect, Alawadi believed his grandson possessed courage and the will to resist foreign interference. That mattered more to him than pleasing greedy nobles who bowed during the day and plotted at night. Human politics, essentially a theatre performance funded by betrayal. But Alawadi's decision angered many powerful figures inside the palace. Among the most influential was Siraj's maternal aunt, Ghasseti Begum. Ghasseti Begum was one of the wealthiest and most politically powerful women in Bengal. She controlled immense treasure, maintained influence among nobles, and had deep connections within the court. She had hoped that someone more controllable, perhaps connected to her own interests, would rise to power instead of Siraj. She viewed Siraj as reckless and dangerous to her influence. Siraj, meanwhile, deeply distrusted her. He believed she was secretly encouraging opposition against him inside the palace. Their relationship became filled with bitterness, suspicion, and political hostility long before war against the British even began. When Siraj became Nawab, he moved quickly against rivals inside the court. He seized portions of Ghasseti Begum's wealth and reduced her political power, fearing she could become the center of rebellion against him. That fear was not entirely wrong. Siraj's greatest danger did not come from outside Bengal. It came from inside his own court. Many powerful nobles disliked him. Some believed he was too young. Others feared losing influence under his rule. And a few simply wanted power for themselves. Among them stood Mir Jafar, the commander of the Nawab's army. Outwardly, Mir Jafar appeared loyal. He bowed before Siraj in court and spoke respectfully in public. But behind palace walls, ambition quietly grew inside him. Ghasseti Begum also became part of the growing anti-Siraj faction. She supported nobles who opposed the Nawab and reportedly used her immense wealth to strengthen conspiracies against him. Powerful banker families such as the Jugat Seth also turned against Siraj, fearing instability and preferring a ruler easier to influence. The British noticed these divisions immediately. Empires survive by finding cracks inside kingdoms and widening them until nations collapse. A disturbingly efficient business model, honestly. Soon, secret meetings began. The British representative Robert Clive started communicating with dissatisfied nobles in Bengal. Promises were made in darkness. Mir Jafar would become Nawab. The British would receive wealth and trading privileges. Powerful nobles would regain influence. Siraj would be removed. Thus, betrayal was signed long before the battlefield appeared. Tension between Siraj and the British increased rapidly. The British strengthened Fort William without permission. Siraj saw this as direct defiance. In response, he attacked and captured Calcutta in 1756. The British retaliated quickly. Robert Clive gathered forces and prepared for war against Bengal. In June 1757, both armies finally faced each other at the historic Battle of Plassey near the village of Plassey. Siraj's army was enormous. Around 50,000 soldiers, cavalry, war elephants, heavy artillery. The British forces were far smaller. On paper, victory should have belonged to Bengal easily, but wars are not always decided by strength. Sometimes they are decided by betrayal. During the battle, Siraj waited for his commanders to attack. But Mir Jafar remained still. Large sections of the Bengal army simply refused to fight. Orders were ignored. Troops stood watching while the British advanced. Siraj became confused and desperate. He realized too late that many of his own commanders had already joined the enemy secretly. Only a few loyal men, such as Mir Jafar and Mohanlal, fought bravely for the Nawab. Mir Jafar was killed during the battle. After his death, morale collapsed further. Rain fell across the battlefield, soaking Bengal's cannons and gunpowder. Confusion spread everywhere. Meanwhile, Mir Jafar continued waiting silently, watching the Nawab's defeat unfold like a man observing a fire he secretly started himself. Siraj finally understood the terrible truth. His kingdom had already been sold before the battle even began. After the defeat at the Battle of Plassey, Siraj ud-Daulah fled from Murshidabad in desperation. The young Nawab who once ruled the richest province in the subcontinent now traveled in disguise, moving through villages and river routes, hoping to escape and gather loyal supporters. But kingdoms collapse quickly when fear replaces loyalty. Men who once bowed before him now searched for rewards. Siraj was eventually captured near Rajmahal. He was brought back as a prisoner under the authority of Mir Jafar, the very man whose betrayal had destroyed Bengal at Plassey. But even after victory, the conspirators feared one thing. As long as Siraj remained alive, rebellion was possible. The British understood this. Mir Jafar understood this. And so the decision was quietly made. The Nawab had to die. Siraj ud-Daulah was imprisoned during the night. He was exhausted, defeated, abandoned by commanders, nobles, and even members of his own circle. Only weeks earlier he had ruled Bengal with royal authority. Now he sat alone as a hunted man waiting for execution. When Mohammadi Beg entered to kill him, some accounts claim Siraj begged for a little time to pray. Others say he asked only for water. And some stories describe him as silent, already understanding that betrayal had closed every door around him. Soon after, he was murdered. Alone, imprisoned, and abandoned after being sold by those closest to him. His body was later displayed publicly in Murshidabad, a warning to anyone who might still support him. Empires enjoy theatre almost as much as terrified politicians do. Siraj's death marked more than the fall of a ruler. It marked the beginning of a new political age in the Indian subcontinent. After Plassey, the British East India Company gained enormous control over Bengal's wealth and administration. Over time, that influence expanded into domination across much of Bangladesh and India. The men who betrayed Siraj believed they would gain power permanently. Instead, many became puppets under British control. Mir Jafar himself eventually discovered that rulers installed through betrayal are rarely treated with respect by those who placed them on the throne. And so Siraj ud-Daulah's story survived in memory not because he was a perfect ruler, but because he became a symbol of a kingdom destroyed by greed, conspiracy, and betrayal from within.